keep it authentic TV, where we only speak on facts. Let's keep it authentic TV. We keep it real, no cap. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we keep it out and that. Let's keep it authentic TV. We don't do no pretend. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Baby, bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Ay. Let's keep it authentic TV, babe. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we only speak on facts. Let's keep it authentic TV. We keep it real, no cap. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we keep it awesome. That is keep it authentic TV. We don't do no pretending. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we only speak on facts. Let's keep it authentic TV. We keep it real, no cap. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we keep it out and that. Let's keep it authentic TV. We don't do no pretend. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Ay. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we only speak on facts. Let's keep it authentic TV. We keep it real, no cap. Let's keep it authentic TV, where we keep it awesome. That is keep it authentic TV. We don't do no pretending. Let's keep it authentic TV, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, baby. Bringing you the latest news from an authentic view. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Wednesday, August the 5th, and you're back with another episode of Keep It Authentic TV with your boy Blanco. And as y'all can see from the title, man, we still discussing this Nolan Wells case. We trying to find out what really happened. Now, what I can say for right now is that there's been a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of discrepancies within this case. Now, my personal take is I'm trying to figure out what to believe and what not to believe. Because we know that there's a lot of people putting out a lot of fake information, a lot of information that isn't, credible. We've also heard that, supposedly Harvey from TMZ and a popular YouTuber that goes by the name of Trent Out Loud, they actually got into a little debate because, you know, he's claiming that, you know, Harvey from TMZ basically told a lie. And basically what he's saying is that, okay, TMZ put out a photo or a video, or maybe it was a photo and a video of, you know, the boat on Horn Island, you know, and what Trent Out Loud is saying is that, did you check the metadata for that video? So basically the argument is that, you know, how do we know that the video and photos that TMZ posted is actually the real images, or have they been doctored? You know, so they got into a little debate about that. You know, I'm not really going to speak too much into that. I'm not going to really dive too deep into that. But what I do want to know, however, is I want to know is, you know, Katie. Let's talk about Katie and Warren for a minute. Okay. Warren was the first one to sit down with Officer Tatum and do an interview. Okay. And in his interview, he's clearly stating that Nolan did not get back on the boat with them. He's saying Nolan stayed on the island with Katie. Right? That is what Warren has been saying from day one. Okay, now let's go to Katie. Katie comes out and she puts out a statement, and she adamantly denies the fact that Nolan stayed on the island with her. From day one, when she sat down and gave her statement. And I'm not saying that she sat down with anyone personally, because there's no evidence to say that she sat down personally with a news station or a specific platform to do an interview. It just says that she put out a statement, and I believe the statement was put out via her sister, Gracie McCormack, and she has adamantly denied from day one. She has consistently said that Nolan did not stay on the island with her. And the last time that she saw him was when he was walking back towards the boat to board the boat with his friends. So my question is, which one of y'all are lying? Now, I'm going to keep it real with y'all, man. I'm going to keep it authentic. My personal gut feeling is telling me that Katie is telling the truth. I have no reason to not believe that what she's saying is true, because she's the only one whose story hasn't changed. You know, and as far as those that have spoken out, you know, we know Warren was the first one to speak out. I believe Trayston, you know, the guy that's claiming that he was the one that got into the altercation. He was the one that you heard, you know, when they said it was Nolan saying, "Give me my phone back." You know, Trayston came out and said, "No, that was not Nolan, that was me." But Trayston is also saying that shortly after the altercation that he got into, he left the island because he was still upset. Okay, we don't know how true that is either, you know, but I kind of want to take his word for it, because, you know, at least if you say, okay, I got into this altercation and then I left the island shortly after that because I was still pissed off and I didn't want to stay there, and, you know, let things escalate to something else. Okay, so that's, if we're going with that, right? And that means you left the island well before everybody else did. So that leads me to believe that you probably wasn't there to see what took place, or you probably wasn't there to actually give us any credible information as to what may have happened to Mr. Nolan Wells. So today in this video, what I want to do is, I found an article that was put out by Ebony Magazine, and it's titled, "Here's What You Need to Know About the Nolan Wells Case." You know what I'm saying? And in this article, right, like I said, I only read, maybe the first few lines of the article. I didn't want to read through the whole article because I wanted to bring it to y'all and I wanted to read it together with y'all. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to, kind of go through the facts of what we know as of right now. Because from my understanding, the district attorney that's handling this case has requested to seal the documents. So there will be no new evidence coming out. There will be no new reports that anybody could give, because the documents have been sealed, and they're going to be presented to a grand jury. And whether those documents have been presented to the grand jury or not, I can't speak on that. I don't know. I can't tell you. All I can say is that, they did come out and say that the autopsy is complete and that they're going to be turning that over to the grand jury as well. So basically, where we're at now, we're at a standstill. We're waiting for the grand jury to review this information that they're being given, and we're going to see if they're going to come forth and bring down some indictments. But with that being said, man, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into this Ebony Magazine article. We're going to read this article. We're going to try to sift through this web of deception, this web of lies, and we're going to try to figure out what's true and what's not. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm hoping everybody can see this. As I stated before, this is an article that was put out by Ebony Magazine. You can see the Ebony logo up there in the corner. And the title says, "Here's what you need to know about the Nolan Wells case." So let's read over this article together and see what we can find out. Okay, it says, and this was put out July 6th, 2026. Okay, so this was basically put out the day that his body was found in the water. But let's read what it says. It says, as the search for the Mississippi teen concludes, questions and public outrage continue to swirl across social media. Key takeaways. Nolan Wells went missing since July 4th, 2026, was confirmed dead after a body was found. Wells was last seen on Horn Island with friends. Circumstances of disappearance unclear. Nolan Wells' cause of death has not been yet confirmed. Public outrage and racial tensions surround the investigation. Okay, let's stop right there for a minute. Okay. They're saying that he went missing on July 4th. That was the same day that they all went out to Horn Island to party for Independence Day. Now, y'all know this past Independence Day was the 250th anniversary. So everybody was out doing their thing. Okay, so we know that. Okay, it also says that he was last seen on Horn Island with friends, and the circumstances of his disappearance is unclear. Okay, so to dig a little bit deep into that, right? Okay, my thing is this. We're talking about anywhere from 200 to, how you doing, babe? We're talking about anywhere from 400 people out here on this island, all partying, having a good time, enjoying the day. Okay, so it's very hard to believe. It's very hard for me to believe that, okay, these kids were all out here partying. This kid goes missing and nobody knows anything. Like, nobody can tell us anything. It's like everybody's story, it's like the story that they're trying to give us. And they've tried to give us all kinds of scenarios. Let's not forget that they tried to say that Nolan had been drinking heavily that whole day. Okay, to me, that's irrelevant because we've seen photos and pictures and videos of all of these kids out there, and they all had drinks in their hands. So they all was out there drinking. So the drinking part is irrelevant to me because they all was out there drinking. Now, if you want to bring that part up and you want to specify the drinking part, okay, then tell me which adult provided the alcohol for these underage kids. Don't tell me that they was out there drinking. We know that they was out there drinking. We seen that from the videos and photos. Now tell me which adult provided the alcohol for these underage kids. Because let's not forget, all these kids is drinking, but somebody has to drive these boats. So that means y'all out here driving boats under the influence of alcohol and possibly drugs. So don't tell me about Nolan being drunk and intoxicated if you're not going to provide me with the adult that provided him with the alcohol, because he's 18, maybe 19 years old, but he's not old enough to go into a liquor store and legally purchase alcohol. You got to be 21 for that. And as far as I know, the only person out there that was 21 years of age is Bart. Okay, but let's continue reading this article here. It says, after a new development in the Nolan Wells case emerged earlier today involving a body being found near the area that Wells was last seen. Wells' mother, Christine Wansley, confirmed on Facebook that her son has passed away. As followers of the case mourn and send their support to the Wells Wansley family, the question still remains, what truly happened? I want to thank our family. Now, this, I believe, is a quote coming from the mother, Miss Christine Wells Wansley. And she goes on to say, I want to thank our family, friends, community, United Cajun Navy, local law enforcement, and everyone involved for all the love, support, resources over the last few days. His father, our family, friends, and I are absolutely devastated. My heart is broken for my sweet son, who was always willing to cheer and uplift others. Nolan was a special soul. God took his time creating our son. I ask that you please give me and my family time to grieve, Wansley wrote in her Facebook post. So that was a post that she put on Facebook, and for all intents and purposes, okay, thank you so much, babe. Shout out to Miss Misty 423 for the chime donation. Appreciate it. Okay, let's continue reading what this article says. On July 4th, 2026, Nolan Xavier Wells was reported missing after going on a weekend trip with friends on Horn Island in Mississippi. The Ocean Springs native was last seen shirtless, wearing blue swim trunks and black sunglasses on a boat on the island with friends. The friends who were on the trip with him, the friends that were on the trip with him or their families have released formal statements in response to the allegations of their involvement. However, they have collectively said that they're not sure where he went after being the one to notify the police of him being missing. Okay, it says public outrage sparked after fingers were immediately pointed at Wells' friends with whom he was on the trip. However, their involvement, if any, is still under investigation. It also is reported by Cajun Navy Incident Commander Josh Gill in a victim statement that Wells was with a young lady on the island prior to his disappearance. The young lady's mother, Gracie McCormack. Okay, so see, here's another discrepancy here. In this article, they're saying Gracie McCormack is the mother of Katie McCormack. But in other articles, they're labeling her as the sister of Katie McCormack. So here's one of the discrepancies that we're talking about in this case. It says the young lady's mother, Gracie McCormack, has confirmed via Facebook that her daughter, Katie McCormack, was with Nolan and has been in contact with his family regarding the situation, but has no insight into his disappearance after the two parted ways from hanging out. Okay, so this is the statement that she gave, and she stuck with this statement from day one. So, like I said earlier, my personal opinion, I believe what Katie is saying. I believe that she parted ways with him after he was asked to get back on the boat because they was leaving because the boat was in distress. Okay, so I believe her when she says that because she's consistently stated that time and time again. Her story has never changed. Okay, so Wells' mother, Christine Wansley, has consistently taken to social media to update supporters on the case in progress. One post even confirmed that Wells' phone was found on the boat and his friends had been on his friends had been on earlier that day. While Wells' phone had been recovered, he still had not been prior to today's discovery. Local residents have also noted on social media that the currents on the island can have shallow points, making it difficult to regain control while swimming. Okay, so essentially here what they're trying to insinuate here, or they're trying to get us to believe here, is that this kid accidentally drowned. So here's my issue with that, right? My issue with that is that, the sheriff of Jackson County, Mississippi, when this body was found, he immediately came out and said that there was no foul play and it was an accidental drowning. Now, this was before any toxicology reports was done. This was before any autopsy reports had been done. So my issue with that is that how do you come out and make a statement saying that this is an accidental drowning and there's no foul play without having any type of evidence to say that this boy drowned? You just assume that because he was on the island, with a bunch of his friends, and they probably was drinking, he probably was under the influence, he's in the water, he probably went in, went under, couldn't swim, whoop-de-whoop, whatever you may have. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going it. I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying that. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue on reading the article. It says, considering that the missing person report happened in the Deep South and Wells' friends group was a group of white boys, many believe that there was foul play involved. After the boys left the island without Wells, though it has not been confirmed, public sentiment still remains of frustration and disappointment tied to racial angst from those following the case. Okay, so listen. Let's not make this a racial thing, right? I understand that is very difficult to do because you're talking about a young black kid who was around a bunch of white guys. Okay, but listen, let's not speculate. You know what I'm saying? All we know as of right now is that there's a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of the statements that's being made. Okay, so listen, let's break it down. Yes, you can label Warren as being fishy. You can even go as far as to label him as possibly being a liar. Because every time he tells his version of events, it just doesn't add up. Like, my problem is that you have consistently said that he stayed on the island with this young lady and she is adamantly denying that. I mean, from the very first time, you even went as far as to say that Katie supposedly called one of your buddies the next day and talked to him about something. I don't know exactly what he claimed. I would have to go back and double check it. So I don't want to speak on that and give you incorrect information. But he did go as far as to say that she called one of his buddies the next day. You know what I'm saying? Do I believe that? No, I don't. Just like they went as far as to say, or they tried to throw it out there to say that Katie and Bart were dating. None of that has been confirmed. None of that has been confirmed. They threw out these, fake photos or these AI doctor photos that supposedly are displaying Katie and Bart together, hugged up or whatever. I'm not going for none of that. I'm not going for none of that. Like I said, it is very hard for me to believe that a person will consistently tell the same story word for word, time and time again, if it isn't true. Because I know it is very difficult to maintain a lie. In order to maintain a lie, you have to remember the very first lie that you told. And that is difficult to do. But let's continue on reading this article here. It says leads on the Wells' whereabouts or information regarding the case leading up to or after the reported disappearance can still be provided to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office at 228-769-3063. Once again, any information that you have, they're asking that you provide it to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office at 769-3063. An official cause of death has not been confirmed at this time. Okay, so that's what Ebony has to say about this case, right? Okay, so what we're going to be getting into next here is we're going to be getting into this GPS stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? We're going to get into this GPS stuff here in a minute. You know what I'm saying? Because the documents, I did some research, I did some digging myself, and I was able to find, the documents that, contains the GPS information to let you know what time they got to Horn Island, what time they left Horn Island, even where they went, after they left Horn Island. You know what I'm saying? Because let's remember, they left the island because a distress call was called in to the sea tow company. You know what I'm saying? About the boat that they was on was sinking. We've heard that distress call over and over. So it has been confirmed that that call was made. However, what I don't understand is that, okay, listen, it's also been confirmed that this boat that was supposedly sinking, when it got towed back in to the mainland, right? It did not immediately get removed from the water. The boat went several other places, and then it was put on a trailer and moved from the water. So my question is, okay, if this boat is sinking, why do y'all got this boat still in the water? And y'all traveling back and forth from this place to this place, and then back to this place, and then this place, and then now we're going to get it out the water and take it home. So, it's just, like I said, it's just a lot going on in this case that, just don't make sense. And what I want to do is I want to sift through all of the nonsense and try to pick out, what is credible and what is not. So let's get into these documents here concerning this GPS. Okay, so here it says documents and evidence on Wyatt's boat after leaving Horn Island. Okay, publicly released GPS. Now y'all see that first part. It says publicly released. So that means this information has already been released to the public. This is public information. Anybody, can go get this information. So it says publicly released GPS and investigation records show that the boat carrying Nolan Wells and his friends left Horn Island on the morning of July 4th, 2026, and had a documented path afterward. GPS and marine records. According to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, MSDMR, the vessel departed its dock at about 9:56 a.m. So at 9:56 a.m. on July 4th, 2026, this boat that they was on supposedly departed the dock. Now let's stop right there for a minute, because you got to remember, in the interview that Warren Hudson gave, he stated that everybody met at this one place, which I'm assuming is this dock that they departed from. So he stated that out of his own mouth. This is his own words. He said we all met at this one place and we all left together. There was about 20 or 30 of us split between 3 boats. That's what he said, his own words. This is not what I'm saying. This is not what I'm speculating. This is what he put out there. Okay, so now it says that they left the dock at 9:56 a.m. on July 4th, 2026, and arrived at Horn Island at 11:14 a.m. So let's say 9:56 to 10:56 is an hour plus another 15 minutes after that. So it took them about an hour, 15 minutes to get from this dock that they departed from out to Horn Island. Okay, so they got to Horn Island at 11:14 a.m. It remained there until 4:31 p.m. So they was on Horn Island from 11:14 a.m. until 4:31 p.m. When it left for the mainland, the boat's operator reported a bilge pump failure and that the vessel was taking on water, prompting an emergency call to sea tow. This is what I stated to y'all earlier about the boat, the distress call to sea tow. So the boat, they supposedly said the boat was sinking. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now it also goes on to say that after leaving the island, the GPS data shows the boat departed Horn Island at 4:31 p.m. So up here you see they was there till 4:31 p.m. So they departed Horn Island at 4:31 p.m. They returned to its original dock at around 6:06 p.m. Entered Fort Bayou at 5:52 p.m., likely during the return trip. Was later recorded at the Fort Bayou boat launch at 7:19 p.m., suggesting it was towed overland to the owner's residence in Biloxi. Investigation notes the MSDMR report notes the boat's owner, his mother, and another person with Wells were cooperative with the investigation. So the MSDMR, which is the Mississippi Marine Resources, Department, they said that the mother, the owner of the boat, and another person with Wells were cooperative with the investigation. The Jackson County Sheriff Office now leads the case, and the family has retained attorney Ben Crump, who is working with the DA's office to jointly inspect Wells' phone. So essentially, what Ben Crump and his team is doing, they're basically they're covering all bases. They're saying, listen, we're not leaving this up to the Jackson County, Mississippi. We're not leaving this up to them. We're going to let them do what they're going to do, and we're going to do what we got to do too. So essentially what they're doing is they're going to have their own experts, go through Nolan's phone, as well as whatever experts they decide to use. they're going to go through the phone. And hopefully, you know, everybody will come up with the same, information. You know, I don't want it to come down to where Jackson County, Mississippi is saying, oh, well, there's no evidence showing that anything was deleted from the phone. There's no evidence showing that this phone was even tampered with. And then Ben Crump's team is saying, oh, yeah, we found evidence of this being deleted, or we found evidence of this being tampered with. So that's what we're hoping. That would be the ideal situation. We're hoping that when these two, investigations of this phone is done, that, both parties involved will come up with the same information. That's what we're hoping. But now let's go on to continue. It says witness and timeline accounts. While the GPS data tracks the boat's movements, it does not record what happened. And that's true. It does not record what happens to Wells after the group left. However, multiple sources report that at least 2 witnesses saw Wells on Horn Island after the boat departed. Okay, so who are these 2 witnesses? And it says that Warren Hudson, one of Wells' friends, said he last saw him around 3 p.m. and spoke with someone who claimed to have seen him again at 6 p.m. Okay, so once again, here's my issue with Warren, right? Okay, listen, we know that you said you last saw him at 3 p.m. and you last saw him on the island cradling the Katie girl in his arms. That's what you said. Okay, that's BS, man. I'm not going for that. That's BS. You know what I'm saying? Now, you're also saying that you also spoke with someone else who claimed to have seen him at 6 p.m. Okay, so if you spoke with someone else who's claimed they saw him at 6 p.m. on the island, okay, if they saw him at 6 p.m., that's what? Y'all left at 4:31, so 5:30. That's about an hour and a half after y'all was gone. So if this person is saying that they saw him at 6 p.m., what is this person's name? Tell us who this person is. Why are you protecting people? Like, what are you protecting these people for? Because let me explain something to you, Mr. Hudson. When this all comes out and the SHIT hits the fan, these people are not going to protect you. I promise you they're not. So I don't know what you think you're doing by protecting these people and saying, okay, well, I talked to this person and this person said this, but you're not giving the person's name. You're not telling us, okay, well, who this person is. Like, it's just a mystery person. And then you wonder why people are, putting these allegations on you. And like me personally, I'm not putting anything on you. I'm not saying that you did or you didn't do anything. What I am saying, though, is that your story makes no sense. There's a lot of inconsistencies in your story. And that's what people are doing. Everybody is poking holes in your story. Now, I don't understand how you can sue people for poking holes in the story that you put out there. You decided to sit down with this Officer Tatum and tell your version of events. Okay, it is not my fault that your version of events is not matching up with something that somebody else is saying. You're saying he was left on the island with Katie. She's saying that's a lie. And not one time have I heard you come out and say that this girl is lying. She ain't had no problem with coming out and say you lying. She said, she came out immediately and said, that's BS. He didn't leave. He didn't stay on the island with me. The last time I saw him, he was walking towards the boat to get on the boat with his friends. Now, what happened after that? I can't speak on that because I don't know. Okay, so the key takeaways from this is, right, It says the available documents confirm that the boat's departure from Horn Island at 4:31 p.m. is returned to the dock, and it's later towed to the owner's home. They do not provide direct proof of Wells' location after the boat left, but witnesses' reports suggest he may have remained on the island afterward, which could be significant for the investigation. Okay, so listen. Let's break this down, right? Okay, for the sake of argument, let's say that he did remain on the island with Katie after the boat left. Okay, so that means what you're telling me is that maybe Katie had something to do with his disappearance. I'm just not buying that. I'm not buying it, bro. We're talking about an 18, 19-year-old star athlete. This kid was a star football player for Ocean Springs. And you want me to believe that this girl, did something to him, or, I'm just not buying it, man. I don't think that this girl would be strong enough, to overpower a 18, 19-year-old football player. I'm just not buying it. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense to me. Now I want to address something else, right? Okay, we're going to come back to that because I got a video that I want to show y'all too as well. But I want to address something really quick here. And what I want to address is that, okay, listen. There's been some photos and videos floating around, right? And me and my wife, we had a debate about this just yesterday. Okay, there's a young lady, I think she goes by the name of Nerdy Pink Panda on TikTok, I want to say. Okay, don't quote me on that. I believe that's what her name is. I believe she goes by Nerdy Pink Panda on TikTok. Okay, so anyway, right? She has released some photos and some videos, that are supposedly from Katie's Snapchat during this outing to Horn Island. Okay, listen. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these photos are original, because it's possible that these photos could have been altered. These photos could have been doctored. It could be AI. We all know with AI, you can do a lot. You know what I'm saying? You can make, images of certain people and a lot of other stuff, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that these pictures are original. However, what I will say is that it does kind of call, Katie into question. Because basically in these photos and videos, what she's trying to convey to us, or what she's trying to get us to believe, is that this girl in these photos and videos is supposed to be Katie. She's saying that the girl had the same blue, the teal blue swimsuit that Katie was supposed to be wearing that day. Okay, but however, later on last night, we did find some information that kind of contradicts that, because someone took the time to blow up the photos that she was posting. And we know from seeing previous photos of the real Katie, if those photos are actually real. Okay, Katie has a tattoo on her arm, right? Now, the young lady that whose picture she's posting and she's trying to get us to believe that this is Katie. When they blew that picture up, the tattoos do not resemble each other. They look different. They kind of resemble each other, but they're different. You know, they're different tattoos. So the tattoos didn't match up. So what that tells me is that the photos are either fake or they've been altered. And when I mean by altered, they've been altered to kind of make it look like it's Katie. You know what I'm saying? Now listen, you know, me and my wife, we get into these little debates, you know, here and there about, you know, cases like this. Because listen, you know, people take cases like this and they put out fake information and false information because they want clout. You know, they want clout. They trying to run the numbers up on their social media platforms or whatever. So they just throw anything out there and hope that people will run with it. You know, and I'm the type of content creator, right, to where, you know, if I even slightly believe that something ain't right, I'm gonna go research it, right? So shout out to my wife who does a lot of the researching for me. And she does a lot of digging. You know what I'm saying? And she does that to make sure that the content that I'm putting out there is accurate. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to her. But like I said, man, you know, I just I'm just like the Wells family. You know, I'm pretty sure that they want to know, you know, 10 times more than I do what happened to their son. But, you know, as a person watching this case unfold, you know, it is sad. It's sad, you know, because let's think of it. Think about if this was your brother, if this was your nephew, if this was your grandson. Just think about that for a minute. You would want answers. You would want people to tell you what happened. So my thing is this. If y'all saying this is an accidental drowning, then why didn't somebody just come out from the very beginning and say, hey, listen, he was a little too intoxicated. We tried to get him out the water. He wouldn't listen. He was fighting with us. And, you know, this is what happened. You know, not saying that even if you did come out and say that, there probably still would have been an investigation just to make sure that what you're saying is accurate. So no matter how you look at this case was going to be investigated no matter how you look at it. But now coming out and giving these inconsistent stories, it just makes it worse. It just makes you look bad. That's what I'm saying. Warren, listen, I'm telling you personally to me, I am not saying that you did anything. You know, all of what I'm saying is alleged. And I'm only going off of the information that you have already put out there. I have listened to your interview with Officer Tatum. I have listened to that interview multiple times. And if you go back and listen to that interview yourself, you would be able to pick out the inconsistencies and the discrepancies. You know, so that's all that's all that we're doing, brother. We're not insinuating, or we're not putting the allegations of unaliving Mr. Nolan Wells. We're not putting that case on you. All we're saying is that, listen, bro, your story ain't adding up. It's not making sense. You know, you keep saying that he stayed on the island with this girl, and this girl is saying, no, that's not true. That's BS. He left. You know, so now we're going to get into this video, right? And this video is basically the same thing that I've already gone over with y'all. You know, the timeline and, you know, things that then took place. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, there's a little more detail in it. So we're going to get into this video and we're going to see what they got to say about it. So let's get into it.
The one that I was like, okay, he never should have done the interview. This is the part where I was like, yeah, he shouldn't have done it. This is D8, and this is where where he is making the case that Nolan decided to stay. and he talks about the witnesses who can corroborate that fact. D8.
The last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock.
Okay, let's stop right here. Now, this is the interview that he originally did. This guy right here in the black, that's Officer Tatum. Now, I don't know if he's an ex-officer or if he's a current officer, but nonetheless, he's a piece of work. Okay, but this is the original video. Now, you just heard him say that the last time he saw Nolan was at 3 o'clock. So that was about an hour and a half before y'all even left the island. Now, pay attention to that. Remember that. Let's go back so y'all can hear it for yourself.
Corroborate that fact. D8.
The last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock.
Okay, so you hear him. These are his own words. He said, the last time I saw Nolan was at 3 o'clock. Make sure you keep that in mind, because remember, their boat did not leave Horn Island until 4:31. So that's an hour and 31 minutes. So remember that. Let's keep going.
And Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie.
Okay, now see, here's another thing I don't like. Okay, instead of him just coming out and saying, hey, the last time I saw him was at 3 o'clock, he was cuddled up with the girl Katie. No, what he says is that the last time I saw Nolan was at 3 o'clock. He was cuddled up. He was cradling some girl. Then he mentions Katie's name. Like, this is the same thing you done with Bart. You kept saying, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. But then you slipped up one time and you mentioned his name. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we came to know that Bart was the one that towed your boat in. Now is Bart the reason that you canceled the tow because he, was being a friend to you and was nice enough to tow your boat in? You know what I'm saying? So is that the reason why the call and the assistance for a tow to sea tow, is that the reason that call was canceled? You know what I'm saying? Or is it because that, y'all kind of figured out, okay, well, if they get the boat and then they tie this together or they piece this together, they might want to, seize the boat and do a little investigation, maybe put some dogs on the boat and, sniff around or whatever. Because you got to remember, right? The Cajun Navy stated that they offered scent and cadaver dogs to Mr. Crump and his team. However, he said they didn't hear back from Ben Crump. Okay, and there's a video out here where Nancy Grace says that, okay, well, you didn't hear back from Ben Crump because that wasn't his call to make. Ben Crump is not the one investigating this case. So that would have been for you to offer the Jackson County, Mississippi, Jackson County, Mississippi. You would have had to offer the sheriff's department, those services, and it would have been up to them if they would have, taken those services or said, no, we respectfully decline. So let's keep on listening to this interview right here.
Katie. And Katie, Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, dude, you crazy. I was like just joking with him. And but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously, no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, be there and asked, this is a very common thing at Horn Island. When you're out there, a lot of people.
See, this is another thing I don't understand about him, right? And if you talk to a psychologist or a psychotherapist or people that, analyze the thinking and the mindset of people, right? They would, like, one thing I don't like about him is that when he goes to answer a question, right, he has to overly do it. You know, nobody like all we ask. Listen to him. This is what I'm saying.
You know, this is a very common thing.
Okay, see, we're not, and nobody asked you what was common about the trips that y'all take out to Horn Island. Nobody asked you that. You know, it's simple. You say, okay, the last time I saw him was at 3:00. Okay, cool. That's it. You saw him last at 3:00. So from 3:00 to 4:31 when y'all left, all you can say is that the last time I saw him was he was with the Katie girl. I don't know what happened after that. But now you going on to say, well, you know, this is a common thing and da 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 da. And this, you're going into stuff that we don't really care about. But let's keep going on with the video.
At Horn Island, when you're out there, a lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done.
Okay, we don't care about that.
Times.
We don't
Very common.
We don't care that people ride out there with somebody and leave with somebody else. We don't care about that. What we want to know is that he rode out there with you, but he didn't come back with you. And what you're saying is that he stayed on the island with this girl, and this girl is saying that's BS. So all of this extra stuff that you throwing in there, we don't care about that, bro. We don't care nothing about what the common practices are. Just tell us what you know.
But
Mount Jaro presents Elevator Revelations with Eric Stonestreet.
If actions speak louder than words, then maybe people should ask their doctors about Mount Jaro through interpretive dance.
Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And like, no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat.
See what I'm saying? See how he be trying to clear up certain things like he's protecting somebody. He said, okay, my friend was like, Nolan, get on the boat. The boat's having issues. We're leaving. But then he followed that up with saying, well, he didn't say it as in a manner as if he was panicking, like, get the F on the boat. Okay, that's not necessary, bro. You know, all of that is not necessary. Okay, listen, just tell us what your friend said to him. You don't have to go into all of this detailed information about, oh, he didn't say it like that or he didn't say it like this. Just tell us what he said. That's it.
Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said, you know.
How many people heard that? Were there just,
at least
just a
5
few, or?
I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. But it's not like we just left him there.
Okay, so, you know, to clarify, because I'm not going to lie, even myself, I was wondering what the Palm Beach was, but I'm assuming down that I'm listening to this is that the Palm Beach was the name of another boat that was out there. So he's saying that that boat called the Palm Beach was already gone. So now my question is, okay, is that the boat that Trayston was on? Because remember, Trayston said that after he got into the altercation on Horn Island, he left shortly after that altercation because he was pissed off. So was Trayston riding on the boat labeled the Palm Beach? I mean, it makes you wonder. But let's keep going.
Yeah.
My friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie,
Uh-huh.
had text somebody
Yeah.
that she heard people yelling
Correct.
for Nolan to get on it. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, you know, because she was.
Okay, now, as you can see, he just said that. Oh, no, we don't want that. Now, as you can see, he just said that he has a picture of the text message that Katie supposedly sent to his buddy. But yet, you have not shown us this text message. If you have a screenshot of this text message, where is it? Because listen, let me break this down, right? Or was it the boat that Katie was on? It's possible. We don't know what boat Katie rode out there on. We don't know what boat she rode back into the mainland on. So it's possible that Palm Beach boat could have been the boat that Katie was on. You know, it's just that, you know, I brought that up because, you know, you remember when we was looking at it, and I'm like, you remember the video we was looking at, and it had, you know, Warren on Palm Beach, and I'm like, well, what is he talking about, Palm Beach? There ain't no Palm Beach in Mississippi. West Palm Beach is, you know, in Florida. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, but now we now know that the boat was named Palm Beach. But now we don't know who was on that boat. You know what I'm saying? We don't know if Katie was on that boat. We don't know if Trayston was on that boat. We don't know. But, you know, once again, my question is, okay, you said that you have a picture, and I'm assuming this picture is a screenshot that you took of the message that she supposedly sent to your buddy the next day. Okay, where's that screenshot at? I want to see it. I want to see that screenshot. And unless you can show me that screenshot, then I don't believe nothing that you're saying, brother. Let's keep going. Okay, so why is this going here? Why does this keep going to this? Okay.
The 6 weeks holiday trying to.
No, that's not what I want.
Let me play probably the
Okay,
one clip,
Go
and
back.
Warren alluded to it earlier, but Paul, I want to also ask you about it because this was the one that I was like, okay, they never.
3 o'clock, and Nolan
We read all that.
was
There you
cradling.
go.
I was like just joking with him, and asked, you know, this is a very common thing at Horn Island when you're out there.
Okay, let's
a lot
just
of
stay
people
right
are
here.
out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. You know, it's a very common thing. But Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And like, no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island. And like he said, you know.
How many people heard that? Were there just,
at least
just a
5
few, or?
to, I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left. My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. But it's not like we just left him there, or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to.
Cancer clinical trials mean more than placebos. Most patients receive a currently approved therapy or a new research therapy. Placebos are only used if there is no currently approved therapy. Clinical trials can change cancer.
On the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie,
Uh-huh.
had text somebody
Yeah.
that she heard people yelling
Correct.
for Nolan to get on it. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy.
Okay, show me the picture.
And
I want to see the
the next
picture.
day, everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, this is the last time I saw him. He's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided not to.
Paul, Warren said that was at 3:00, that they're yelling at him to get on the boat. An hour and a half later, they left with Nolan's phone, at least according to Warren, still on the boat. Here's my problem with this. And I don't know if maybe, again, I'm being a little bit too extra here or too paranoid. I thought Nolan was staying on the island to be with Katie, to hang out with her.
Facts. That's what I'm saying. You said he stayed on the island to be with her. But then, she comes out and says that, no, that's not true. Now, once again, and shout out to Miss Misty in the comments. That's what I'm saying. I want to see this picture. I want to see this screenshot that you got that says Katie texted your buddy the next day and said, oh, he's a sweet guy, blah, 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 whatever. I want to see it. Until you can produce that screenshot, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. Let's keep going.
That was the original story, that he wanted to hang out with Katie. If the last time Katie saw him is when he was being told, get on the boat, well, there's no reason to stay because apparently she don't want to hang out with you. She's not.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So see how we got somebody that's making some sense of this. Okay, listen, you just said yourself that Katie said, the last time I saw him was when y'all was yelling for him to get on the boat. Okay, if that's the last time that she saw him, why would he stay out there with her? Because it's obvious that she ain't trying to hang out. She don't have no intentions on staying. So it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, bro. You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going. Let's keep on and see what they got to say.
Because the last time she sees Nolan is at 3:00.
Yeah, it doesn't add up. And again, it's not unusual for people's memories to be faulty, especially about something that turns out to be stressful. So it could be kind of an innocent mistake about exactly when was the last time that this young man saw Nolan. But again, it's not helpful to the process to have this kind of stream of consciousness interview when the people he should be talking to are the investigators.
Like I said, man, it's just not making sense. Every time he opens his mouth to say something, it's some BS. It's some nonsense, bro. It just ain't adding up. It's not adding up. Okay, you saying that the last time you saw him was at 3:00. Okay, then you saying that she sent a message confirming that the last time she saw him was at 3:00 as well. So y'all didn't leave the island until an hour and 31 minutes later. So what was going on during all that time? What was they doing during all that time? Because I'm not understanding how you told him at 3:00 when your friend was yelling at him to get on the boat. You know what I'm saying? This is what you said. So you said the last time you saw him was at 3:00. Then the next statement you make out of your mouth is that, my friend was yelling at him to get on the boat. Come on, Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. Okay, so what time was that? Because you didn't say what time that was when your friend started yelling at him. So what time was that? Was that at 3:00 as well? Because now I want to know, okay, so why are you telling this man at 3:00 So that means you're telling me that your boat started having issues at 3 o'clock, but you didn't call it in until 4:30, an hour and a half later? No, brother. That boat would have sunk by then. Like, who you think you fooling? You know what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
And especially when we consider that this young man's mother is a judge, that raises all kinds of issues. She's a high profile person in the community. So we've already learned that her son was involved in this day trip to the beach, and her other son got into a fight allegedly at the beach. Why is she allowing all of this to be made public?
Okay, we're going to stop right there because I don't understand, you know, why they keep skipping to a different video. You know, I don't know if that was the end of the video, but listen, so now you understand why a lot of what Warren is saying is being called into question. Because it's like every time you speak, bro, it's a different story. It's something different every time. So once again, my question is, you know, what is the truth and what is a lie? You know, because you can't tell me that the last time you saw him was at 3 o'clock and then follow that up with saying that, oh, my buddy, you know, was yelling at him to get on the boat. Come on, Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving, you know, the boat's in distress. You know what I'm saying? We're out of here. Okay, so what time was that when your buddy started yelling at him to get on the boat? At what time was that? Was that at 3 o'clock when you last laid eyes on him? Was it at 3:30? Was it at 4 o'clock? 4:15? Or like shortly before 4:31 when y'all left Horn Island? Like, what time was it when your buddy, you know, and who is this buddy? Who is this buddy that you talking about? That's what I want to know. Like, you keep addressing people as your buddy, but you're not putting any names to these people. You know what I'm saying? So what that tells me is that you're protecting and you're hiding something. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is that you're hiding, but you're hiding something, bro. Because listen, let me break this down for you, right? If I'm involved, you know, or let me not say involved. If I'm with a group of friends, right? Or I'm with a group of people, you know, I may not be friends with them all, but I may know some people out there, right? But I'm out here with my friends and we chilling, we having a good time, and something happens and a person ends up unalive. Okay, if I have nothing to do with it and my name keeps constantly being brought up in it, you know, I'm going to come out and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I don't know what these people talking about. I left at this time. I left on this boat. I left with these people. If you don't believe me, you can talk to these people right here. They can confirm it. You know what I'm saying? You want to go through my phone, you can track my phone and you can see that I'm telling the truth. This is the time I left. I left on this boat with these people and I got dropped off here. Here's my phone. You can track all that evidence if you need to. You know what I'm saying? But like, I'm not just going to keep on. I'm not going to protect people, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, when the SHIT hits the fan, I promise you, they're not going to protect you. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this, bro. Your stepmother is a Jackson County, Mississippi judge. And for the sake of her career, I hope and pray that you had nothing to do with this. Because if it comes out that you had anything to do with this, her career is pretty much going to be over. Because nobody's going to trust her. Listen, if I was a criminal, I damn sure wouldn't want her presiding over my case. And your stepson it was just involved in a huge, like, no. No. So for the sake of her, bruh, I hope you didn't have anything to do with this. Because if you did, and you would sit here and string this along like this, knowing that your stepmother is a judge and knowing that this could possibly affect her career and her livelihood, you are a real piece of shit. And that means you have no respect for anyone. You know what I'm saying? So once again, man, I hope and pray that you have nothing to do with this. However, I think you hiding something. I can't put my finger on it quite yet, but I think you hiding something. So with that being said, man, we're going to go ahead and end it right there. Listen, y'all get in the comments and y'all let me know, what do y'all believe? Do y'all believe Warren is telling the truth? Do y'all believe Warren is full of shit? You know what I'm saying? Y'all jump in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know every time I'm dropping a video or every time I'm going live. You know what I'm saying? And with that being said, man, man, I just don't know, bro. Like, honestly, I really don't know. What I can say is that, I do believe Katie. I don't believe Nolan stayed on the island with her. And the reason why I don't believe that is because his mother has came out and said that he would not have separated from his friends like that and left his phone on that boat. His best friend, Javon Williams, who it has been confirmed that he's the closest one to him. He's also come out and said that Nolan would have not separated from his friends. So I believe Katie. I don't believe he stayed on the island with her. But we're going to figure out what happened. We're going to get justice for Nolan Wells and his family, man. With that being said, you have now watched another episode of Keep It Authentic TV with Blanco. Until the next one, we out.